show of hands. Yeah, how many of you are responsible for your company's marketing activities in some way? How many of you are just curious about SEO in general? And how many of you came to the wrong room? Yeah. Hey, well, I'm very excited to be talking about a certain strategy today called SEO, which is the topic of this discussion. Now, generally, for a marketer, it's very important to be able to know what kind of strategies are out there that they can employ when it comes to digital marketing, what sort of strategies are suitable for their business and for them as individuals, because not everything works for everyone and for every type of business. It's important for when you're doing digital marketing, whatever strategy you're using, it's important for you to know what kind of results you can expect, because different strategies will give you different sorts of results. And it's along with the sort of results you can get, you need to know how soon you can get those results, what those results are going to be, how much they're going to cost you in terms of the total number of results you get, and in terms of like how long it takes, how it costs you overall, and how much those results are going to be worth to you. So what kind of conversions you'll be able to get, what kind of revenue you'll be able to generate. So these are the things that are very important for any marketer to know. And generally speaking, those who do understand as much of this as possible would have an advantage over people who don't have a clear understanding of what they can expect from the strategies available to them and the different options that they have. Now, SEO is a very cost-effective digital marketing strategy that can be employed by majority of businesses. It doesn't apply to every single type of business, because some businesses would be more suitable for them to use Google Ads, Facebook ads, and a lot of other options that are out there. But SEO is something that is very suitable for the majority of businesses out there. So what I'm going to do is tonight I'll run through an initial presentation to talk about digital marketing, the different types of digital marketing that are available, that are possible for people to take advantage of, and then we'll go into a bit more depth in regards to the different possibilities that you have with different modes of marketing, as well as the different search engines. And then we'll look at SEO in a bit more depth. Then we'll take a little bit of a break, and we'll sort of network and over about a 15-minute break. After that, we'll continue with the even more exciting part of the presentation, the second presentation, maybe, which is to do with the basic techniques that can be employed, or need to be employed by anyone thinking of doing SEO on their website. And we'll talk about the tools that a business owner or a marketer can use in order to get the best results from those individual steps that can be taken. So the first presentation is about the SEO secrets for small business. So what I'll start off with is supposed to start off with information about digital marketing. Yeah. Okay, so digital marketing is, there are certain types of digital marketing that you might be familiar with. There are a variety of options available in general. Email marketing is one, where you can just you can build your subscribers' database, have as many people as possible on your database, so you can actually keep them updated. You can build some sort of a regular platform through which a regular mode of interaction with your prospects and clients on an ongoing basis. Affiliate marketing is another popular mode of internet marketing, which is mostly to do with companies or smaller companies that function as affiliates of bigger enterprises, and they're getting some sort of a commission based on the sort of sales they generate through their efforts. Content marketing is about creating a good amount of relevant, good quality content for your products and services, and generally this is used in cases where you're trying to do a special product launch, or to try and have a lot of impact in a short space of time, a significant impact. Social media marketing, that's basically to do with not just these 4 platforms that are up there: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. There are plenty of other platforms available, but these are amongst the most popular ones. This is about, once again, it's basically, in my opinion, that's the best platform when it comes to interacting with your client base, to try and keep them updated on how things, what sort of offerings you have, and keep them updated, and be able to respond to your clients' questions and interact with them on a regular basis. Pay-per-click advertising. That's to do with advertising, placing advertisements on a platform. It can be Google, it can be a social media platform, it can be Bing, search engine, or any others, where you're paying the platform on which you're placing the advertisement on a per-click basis. So every time somebody clicks on your advertisement, you would be paying the platform a certain amount of money. That can be very effective in certain cases, certain businesses, especially if you're trying to get quick results. That's a very effective way to go about marketing your business. Search engine optimization is the one we'll talk about in more depth, which is about getting organic visibility for your business on the internet, primarily, well, as the name suggests, through search engines, primarily through Google, but there are other search engines available as well. Now, that's the first thing I'm going to talk about under the topic of SEO. The different types of search engines. Google, Bing, Yahoo, these are the first three names that most people would be aware of. Bing is the search engine run by Microsoft. It used to be MSN.com at one stage. It still has a certain number of people using it, but Google is the dominant player. Yahoo is a massive brand, but it's, at least in Australia, it's not using its own search engine. It's using Google search engine. In other parts of the world, Yahoo uses Bing's technology, but on its own, it's not actively running its own search engine. These are the others, some of the others that you might be familiar with. We were talking about a short while ago, we were talking about DuckDuckGo. Then there are others, Yandex for users in Russia, Baidu for users in China. Then there's Ask.com, a UK search engine, and then AOL, America Online. So these are very much more regional sort of search engines, but they do have their regular users. So there are other options in addition to Google that are out there. But Google is the main player, and almost every search engine out there is trying to copy Google's algorithm to a great degree. So as long as you can do the right things for Google, you're likely to get decent results in other search engines in most cases. Do something else. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to give you an idea of how Google works. What Google does is it crawls and reads websites all over the internet on an ongoing basis. It never stops. It just sort of keeps gathering information. That's where Google is better than any other search engine out there. This is what gives them the most, the widest reach as well. So they're regularly crawling the internet and reading websites, and basically once it reads the websites, it organizes the information that it gathers from those websites, and it indexes that information in such a way that it's easy for it to deliver results to you when you perform a Google search. Now, when a person does a Google search, when a user enters a term in the Google search engine, what they usually get is an instant set of results, but Google's not delivering you the results in real time. It's not crawling the entire internet. It simply can't do that, at least in this day and age. It can't maybe in 20 years' time. But at this point in time, the way it works is the reason Google indexes the information is so that it can instantly deliver the results to you by analyzing and matching the search terms that you key in and delivering results, ranking and delivering results based on the terms that you key in. Now, it's very much about context as far as Google's concerned. Google's able to, being a smart search engine, is able to understand, or to a certain degree, Google tries to understand what you might be searching for. Even if you make a spelling mistake or use a generic term which may be applicable in other areas, Google tries to do a match and deliver the results to you. The different ranking factors that I utilize, actually we've jumped a few slides here. I'm sorry. Okay. The differences, this is supposed to be the slide after the previous one. There's something wrong with the clicker. I'm just going to give you an idea of the difference between Google and the next biggest search engine, which is Bing. The differences are, there are a variety of differences. Basically, they do function in a very similar way, but when it comes to getting good visibility, the main differences between the search engines are in these sort of areas. When it comes to search matching, when it comes to the search engine delivering results based on a match, Google tries to do topical relevance. So it's looking at the context of what your search might be about. Whereas Bing usually goes strictly by keywords. So if you have used those particular keywords in your website, you would have a much better, much more of an advantage as far as Bing is concerned. Whereas Google has a much stronger AI process in their algorithm, and it tries to understand what your website might be about and what the person doing the search might be searching for based on how its understanding of the context of the search might be. Meta keywords. Bing still pays attention to, usually when you create a website, generally, old-fashioned web designers still tend to do it, but a lot of people would, you still have the option of having a keyword meta, where you can indicate as many keywords as you want to indicate what your site is about. Bing still pays attention to it. Yahoo used to pay attention to it. Google doesn't, because it sees it as a way of, it leaves a window open for people to manipulate their website's performance or manipulate Google's algorithm to get better rankings in Google search results. So that's where Google doesn't pay any attention to your meta tag, whereas Bing does. Backlinks. Google looks at the authority and the quality of the backlinks you have, whereas Bing looks at the quantity, domain extensions, .gov, .edu, and .org, and other domain extensions. And it makes a difference as far as Bing's concerned, how many such links you have. Homepage. Bing tends to give a greater preference to your website's homepage, whereas Google tends to give a lesser amount of preference to the homepage. So there's a better chance for you to get a wider range of your pages appearing in Google search results, whereas Bing is more focused on your homepage. Page cache size. In some cases it makes a big difference. Google tends to be able to read more of your website and cache it as opposed to Bing. Faster indexing. Google does the indexing on its own on a regular basis, whereas Bing, you need to sort of push it a bit more frequently through Bing's webmasters tools. I'll talk about that in the next slide in a bit more detail. 302 redirects. Google still pays attention to them and tries to understand them. This is, in some cases, people are still using 302 redirects, whereas in case of Bing doesn't seem to be able to follow 302 redirects effectively enough. At least that's the general understanding. 302 redirects are temporary redirects from one web page to another, in case you're moving your website or having a page temporarily down or making certain changes, structural changes to your website. Bing has a much better understanding of multimedia websites, multimedia content. So Bing can understand Flash content, Bing can understand images better than Google. Yes, Google's been putting a lot of effort into it, but generally Google is more text-based in terms of understanding what the results are about. Yes, they've been working a lot on the image results and videos and things like that, but Google is a bit behind Bing in that particular area. Now, image searches, it goes back to it's kind of linked to the multimedia websites part. Image searches are, it's easier to get your images understood by Bing. Generally, it's much easier to do that. Social signals. Bing pays attention to social signals like Facebook, Twitter, other such platforms, whereas Google doesn't. Google was doing it when Google introduced its own social media platform, Google Plus, because the idea was that Google Plus would somehow overtake Facebook, at least be able to compete with Facebook, but Google Plus didn't succeed, and Google basically tasted like sour grapes, if you like, but Google stopped paying attention to social signals. And the reason they gave was that social signals can be manipulated a lot more easily. You can pay somebody to build like 1,000 links or 1 million links overnight and get likes and all kinds of social benefits that you could initially get. So there was a big drive towards social signals about 4 or 5 years ago, but Google sort of stopped paying attention to it, but Bing still does. Now this is another comparison table between Google and Bing. Now what this is going to give you an indication of is the difference between the webmasters tools. How many of you have actually used or are familiar with Bing's webmasters tools? Has anybody used it? Ever? Well, it's it's a fantastic tool that Bing provides, which is to try and rival what Google has. Google Webmasters Tools. Is anybody familiar with Google's Webmasters Tools? Google Search Console. Yeah, that's a more popular Webmasters tools collection. One that more people are familiar with, but Bing gives you a lot more options simply because they're way behind Google in terms of the amount of exposure they've had over the years and the number of people, as you can see, hardly anybody's familiar with Bing's Webmasters tools. So they give you a lot of features. So if you're a webmaster or website owner that is not sure about how to do certain things, Google can give you ideas, but Google has just revamped its Search Console, which is basically a platform where you can help your website communicate better with Google. You can see data from Google to understand how well your website's doing. But at the same time, Google has sort of taken away a lot of those features. Those who are familiar with it would know in the last couple of months they've revamped it completely, taken away so many features, whereas Bing is going the opposite direction. It's giving you more and more features, simply because it wants to become your favorite search engine, or at least a favorite platform that people go to and utilize their tools. So try going to there, just search for Bing Webmasters Tools, and you'll see a platform where you can sign on using any Microsoft account or even a Google account. The idea is once you sign on, you can actually get your website an analysis report, a lot of different things, a lot of very useful information from the search engine to give you an idea of what might be wrong with your website, what kind of things to fix. And these are the different areas where Bing provides you a number of features which completely are much better. And you can if you fix those things, that will also give you a benefit as far as Google performance is concerned. So your website will do better in Google as well if you fix those things. Now, what Webmasters Tools? I'm just going to show you the different features which Bing has, which Google doesn't. SEO Analyzer. You can actually get an idea of. Bing can actually do a real-time analysis of your website and give you an idea of what's wrong with it, what's right with it, what kind of things you need to fix, and what kind of areas you need to work on to get better results. Geo-targeting. Google only allows geo-targeting of US domains, .com, .net. So if you have a .com.au website, which the majority of us do, automatically by default, Google would focus basically target your website towards local or regional search results. When Google talks about location, it's talking about the country. So they just go by. And so if you're trying to reach a global market, it would be, generally, it's only possible for you to reach a global audience more easily if you're using a .com or .net market. For a .com.au, you can still get good results, but you have to put a good amount of effort into it. Bing allows you to target different parts of the world for different pages of your website. Bing has that feature, which Google doesn't. And you can actually do that in Bing's Webmasters Tools. You can indicate which page is for which part of the world. Social profile links. Bing enables you to indicate what your different social media profiles are, whereas Google doesn't have that in its Webmasters Tool. So in Bing, you can actually indicate what your Facebook link is, what your LinkedIn link is, and things like that. So Google doesn't trust its users as much as Bing does, and basically Bing allows you to indicate whatever links you want to put in, whereas Google likes to collect that information on its own to try and understand the site on its own and understand your business on its own and deliver the results based on its own comprehension of what your business might be about. Mobile friendliness test. Bing allows you to do that within the Search Console. Google also has this option, but to do that you have to go to a different platform to actually carry out the mobile friendliness test. Both are just as effective, it's just that Bing has it all in one platform. Security analysis. Bing actually allows you to actually do a security analysis of your website. So if there are security concerns, Bing would allow you to actually check it on a periodic basis to make sure your website is secure and there are no issues with it. Google would not provide you an easy way of doing that, but if there is a problem with your website, then it will suddenly give you an indication that there's a security issue. Otherwise, it would not give you any idea, so you don't really know it unless Google gives you that information. You can't sort of make changes to your website and do a test in real time, which you can with Bing. Page traffic statistics. Google doesn't seem to give you that in as much detail as Bing does. Bing Webmasters Tools gives you detailed information in regards to the individual page's performance. Google, you can do that by going into Google Analytics, and if you're able to understand Google Analytics well enough, then you can get that information from there. But in the Webmasters Tools, it doesn't have that information in as much detail as Bing. Site move feature. Now this is interesting. When you're moving your site, whether it's from one domain name to another, or the same domain name from one server to another, Bing allows you to manage that much more easily. Google doesn't. In case of Google, it's basically, especially if you're changing to another domain name, it's almost like a brand new website in certain cases, unless you manage your 301 redirects and things like that very, very effectively. But even that is not so smooth as it is in Bing Webmasters. Now this slide I've gone through already. Okay, the ranking factors. I'm going to talk about the different factors that are used by Google. There are about more than 200 factors that Google looks at. At least there are more than 200 known factors. If anybody saw the recent grilling of Google's CEO on social media platforms and elsewhere, you'll have seen that they actually talked about 200 different factors that they use. Some of those factors are very, very obvious. Some of those factors they keep very close to their chest. They don't want to give you an indication of what sort of metrics, how they're understanding the metrics, what kind of value they attach to every single one of those metrics, because it's always open to manipulation. These are some of the, there are 200 different factors, but these are some of those factors that are the more obvious ones that you can, you need to pay attention to. The domain authority, which is basically about what kind of authority your domain name has in terms of what kind of sites are linking to it, what kind of reputation your website has. The page authority, the type of content, the type of reputation, content you have in a particular page, and the type of authority that particular page in your website has in terms of how the search engines see it. Content of the website. Content is something that's extremely important. It's becoming more and more important as we go along, simply because content is what enables Google to understand what your site is about. So you need to have good quality content. It's not so straightforward like the old days where you just have a website with basic information and get good visibility for it. There are a lot of things that you need to pay attention to when you're creating your website, and when you're managing your website. You need to have useful information for people to be able to, for search engines to gather, and then for people to be able to value your website. And people return to your website regularly. They give you they link to your website. They have good engagement with your website, which is the next two points down. So basically, interaction is very important, and that comes from content. Content, backlinks that people will give you, engagement that you have with users. All of these things are amongst factors that Google takes into account. Internal linking, and that's links from one page to another in your website. So Google needs to, because its bots need to crawl through your website on their own, in their own time. If you have a clear set of links from one page to another throughout your website, if you have a well-structured website, it always is going to be beneficial to you. It's not just sufficient having a good menu. You need to actually create links and guide people through to different parts of the website, depending on what pages have the right information. So you need to be careful about the sort of links you build from one page to another. Brand signals. Brand signals, this is something that wasn't so important up until quite recently, and with the changes in terms of fake news and stuff like that came out, all those things that happened in the last couple of years, brand signals have become a lot more important. Now Google pays a lot more attention to the sort of signals your website is getting, and this goes back to backlinks as well. The sort of searches people are doing is people are searching for your business name. In the old days, if somebody was searching for your business name, I might fix this. We're back. This is not my computer.
Oh, somebody Ah,
That's interesting.
Think you've been hijacked?
Yeah. Exactly.
the usage sort of stats between Google and Bing, I imagine Google far outpaces them.
I'm sorry. What's mine? Yeah, sorry.
The usage stats, sorry, but it's
Yeah, yeah.
I speak too loudly. The usage stats between Google and Bing. I guess
User stats.
Google far
You're,
outpaces.
you're talking about something like 92% for Google, 7% for Bing, 1% for the others, something like that. But there are different sets of data available from different sources. So people, depending on who's trying to market what,
Yeah.
they would give you different statistics.
Yeah.
So there are, if you just go to Google and search for popular search engines, and you look at the first 10 search results,
Yeah.
they will all give you different data. It's interesting how different it is. It's shockingly different. There are some sites that tell you Baidu is the second biggest search engine. Some sites tell you Bing is the second biggest, and Baidu doesn't even come in the top 5. So there are different ways of measuring the stats. Sometimes people go by the number of searches carried out. Sometimes people go by the number of registered users. Sometimes people go by, because there was, up until recently, there was a claim by, not so recently, but about 10 years ago, Yahoo proudly claimed that they were the most popular search engine still, because there were more searches being carried out, twice as many. But then Google did a subsequent study, and they found that the reason there were twice as many searches is because
Relevancy of information.
the information delivered by Yahoo was so terrible, people had to search 4 times to get what they were looking for.
Yeah.
So it was half as many searches technically. People just have to search for the same things again and again. So everybody sort of delivers data based on what suits them best. You can't be sure of, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. That's just how it works. But generally, Google is by far the most dominant search engine.
Yeah.
But it's still good to know, it's still 7%, and 7% of a million users is not a bad number. So it depends on how many users. If you have no visibility in Google whatsoever, and you can be top 10 in Bing, that will still get you some traffic. You'll still be doing better than someone who's on the second page of Google. So there are some cases where people are fighting over the top 10 in Google and not getting anywhere, or not even in the top 50 in Google. But if you can be in the top 10 in Bing, it's maybe a smaller amount of traffic, and a smaller number of people are seeing your viewing search results, but still you can get some people coming through. So yeah, that's not a bad place to start. Yeah, going back to the user engagement, internal linking we talked about, spam signals also, and then the next thing is on-page signals, including web spam. On-page signals is the sort of information that the search engine is able to collect from your website in regards to your website. And that's where you need to have the right kind of information going through to the search engines. You need to make sure you structure your website correctly, you put the right sort of information, the code, as well as the visible part of the website. That's where the web spam stuff comes in. The days of putting black text on black background or white text on white background, that doesn't work anymore. If your website has dodgy information in the back end because you are trying to get Google to record that information and deliver you in those search results, that won't work anymore. And in fact, it's going to work against you if you're trying to appear for the results for your competitor's business name, for example. It was something that people could do in the old days. They can't do that anymore. You can only do that in Google Ads because Google's still making some money as a result of it. But you can't do that in SEO. Off-page signals is where you build links. And if you build the wrong kind of links, if you build thousands of bad backlinks, that's going to work against you instead of working in your favor. So those are the things that you need to pay attention to. But overall, 200 signals, the more of those signals you can address, the better it is. But nobody can get all those signals right, especially the signals that are related to the age of your site. So, yeah.
So really simple. Could you give me an example of one of those links you're talking about? That was a practical example. I'm not following the links. Obviously, I understand the concept of linking through your own pages. What sort of links are you talking about?
External links?
Yeah.
Okay. For external links, if they're context, it's very much about context as well. It's, as long as someone's creating a link, technically, as long as one website has a hyperlink to another website,
Yes.
that's a backlink,
Okay.
technically.
Okay.
But when you're talking of good quality backlinks, then you have to get links from relevant sites. So if you have a if you have a car website and you have most of the links coming in from jewelry websites, that's not going to do you any good
Okay.
unless it's very, very similar, it's related in some way. If it is related in some way, that's going to work in your favor. If you can get links from people in your industry, in other parts of the world, which is usually easier to do than to get links from your own location, because if somebody else is in the same line of trade, they're not likely to be giving you a link. If you have multiple websites, yeah, you can cross-link them. But there are cases where you can get very good results by contacting. Sometimes people are very welcoming if you're asking for a link, provided you give something back in return. It's not always
Reciprocal
something monetary value. It can be
Reciprocal links.
sometimes if it's too, if it's very much a case of I'll give you a link and you give me a link back, that can work, but sometimes it can work against you. Sometimes what people do, because Google has ways of finding out if you're doing too much of that. So if you go to a wide range of website owners all over the world and say, I'll give you a link and you give me a link back, eventually you'll end up with a wide range of links on your website. And if Google sees you doing that without the right kind of context, or if you're doing too much of that, it can work against you, unless you're doing it in, it also matters where you place the link. If there are times when people create a big footer and all the people they're linking to or receiving links from them put all their names at the bottom of the or website address in the footer of the website. That may work for you if you're just doing it for a few websites, but if you're doing it for a large number of websites, that can work against you. So you'd be better off, yes, if you are looking at reciprocal links, you'd be better off writing some sort of an article about them in a blog post somewhere. So these guys are fantastic if you're looking for this particular type of service. In China, you can check out their website, that sort of thing. And they can do the same for you. So yes, it can work as long as you're doing it in a very genuine looking way. It has to look as natural. They use the term natural links a lot, natural backlinks. So how natural is a natural, I mean, how you classify a natural backlink, that very much depends.
Authentic. What about adding these links in blogs, for example?
A blog post, it's always good to have links coming in. You're talking with somebody else's blog post pointing to yours.
Like having my own blog and writing down a link that relates to a different website which is similar to my business.
That's actually a good way of doing it. As long as your blog is posting original and unique content, that's actually a good way to build links. But if you're repeating the same kind of links again and again, it will start to, the value will not be the same. If you're building, because Google also looks at the number of links from individual domain names. So it looks at the number of links. It also looks at the number of links for particular domain names. So if you have a big blog with 1,000 posts, and every post is linking to you, after a while, you know, the value of those 1,000 links will not be the same as 1,000 links from different blogs coming to you. But as long as you're providing good content and creating a link, if you can have some sort of a mention of, I mean, if you can mention somebody else's site and you have a good relationship with them and get them to link to you, and your blog links to a variety of different websites depending on the information in those websites, then Google's going to value your blog more and the results will be better.
So, what about those sort of directories where people put like a text about directories about everything, you know, like so they put text and then the link. Like this doesn't really look very natural, but I know some companies do that.
Yeah, directory links are good in a certain way, which is that directories, generally directories, the legitimate ones, the ones that have a bit more decent reputation, those directories would usually study a link before including, study a website before including the link in their directory. The directory owners would do that. And that takes away the onus of whether or not the link is to a genuine website or an authentic website. That takes away the onus from Google or the search engine, whichever the search engine might be, to the directory managers. So directory links can be good in that way. It's just that directories, you need to have a wide range of different types of links coming in. Blog posts, article sites, directories as well. Directories can get you good visibility, but if you continue working only with directories over a long period, then it will become a bit stale. You'll see that there's a bit of a plateau that you hit after a while. And if you keep doing that, then if you're only getting links from directories, even if they're natural links, even if your website is genuine, authentic, is providing the right kind of, is not doing anything spammy, still the search engine would start to see your site as only getting directory backlinks. So initially you can get quite far with directory backlinks, but you need to look at other types of backlinks over a longer period.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but so my understanding is that with backlinks, it's really about the, I guess, the quality of backlinks for your website. So if you're linking to dodgy websites, I guess that would mean that you enter SEO. What about vice versa? Like what if there's dodgy websites that are linking to your website? Does that have any influence?
It depends on the number of dodgy websites that are pointing to you and how dodgy those individual websites are. Sometimes, well, if you have links pointing to you from a website that's done a lot of dodgy linking, that's linked to, say for example, there was this one particular client whose website we were working on, and everything was going fantastically well, and for some reason, somebody, maybe a competitor of theirs or somebody, built one link, and they had like more than 100 links. Somebody built one link from a Russian website that was just sending thousands and thousands of links to any website you can think of. Basically, that resulted in the website's performance becoming a bit not so good. And so the idea of what we had to do was to study the entire backlink profile and look at the links that were of no relevance. So it's usually, it can harm your business, it can harm your website, but Google does, once again, it goes back to the idea of how natural those backlinks are. So if they're natural backlinks, then still you can get away with a few dodgy ones, or if somebody else will, because Google also knows that there are people out there that would want to damage their competitor's reputation. So people can, Google can't simply rely on just bad links to bring your site down, because people can build backlinks for their competitors' sites as well. So as long as the ratio is not so bad, you can get away with it.
But there's no, I guess, really effective strategy to mitigate it. It's kind of overreacting.
You actually can't, to be frank, you can't do much about somebody else linking to you. That's the first thing. But there is something that I'll talk about in the second presentation, which is about disavowing links. So if you do have, if you're concerned that somebody is building bad backlinks to you, or you built a backlink from somewhere else, and you found that website, because you can't be sure of people who are practicing, who are doing everything right today, but they start doing, engaging in some dodgy practices in 6 months from now. You can't be sure of who's going to do what if you have hundreds of links pointing to you. So there is a feature that Google provides you with, which is about disavowing links. So you can sort of disregard those. Initially, the idea, what Google tells you to do is to contact the webmaster, ask them to take down the link, and then tell Google that you've already done so. But generally, it's best to use that sort of feature. But I'll talk about that in the next presentation as well. Okay. Yeah, this is just a periodic table to give you an indication of the sort of things that need to be done in order for your website to get the right kind of results in Google. The on-page work you need to do in terms of the back-end code, the content, the quality, how easy you make search engines to crawl your website, because you can have a fantastic website but it can't be crawled, that can deliver the results in much worse results for you. A wide range of things, mobile, how your website does on mobile platforms, how well structured it is, you copying content from anywhere else, how original your content is, what kind of quality you provide, a wide range of things. Off-page, it's about the trust your website builds over a long period of time, the kind of links you can get, how your website is performing in social to a degree. Some people still feel that social is paid attention to in some ways, but not as heavily as we talked about before, not as heavily as Bing. So these are basically the different factors laid out in the form of a periodic table. Okay, so how to do SEO, just to give you a quick understanding. You need to link your site with Google. There are a number of steps that you need to follow in order to make sure that your website is properly linked with the search engine. Now, we're talking about Google, but you can do this, the same sort of stuff with other search engines that you're working with as well. You need to do as much of on-page optimization work as possible, and you need to do as much of the off-page work as possible. Now, in the second presentation, we will talk about the tools, like I said, the 10 things that you need to do, the 10 steps that you need to follow as a basic set of steps that every business owner needs to do, every website owner needs to take care of. Now, this is just to give you a general idea. We'll go into more depth after the break, and then we'll talk about how you can get started in terms of doing the right things. If you've already started, it's still good to pay attention to those things and make sure if you've made any mistakes or anything you may have not paid good attention to in the past, when you go through those steps, you'll be able to go back to your website, revisit everything you've done, and take care of those things. Okay, let's take a break. And we'll start again in about 15 minutes, and then we'll go to